Welcome back, everybody. We're back. We're going to start doing some reassembly on that. The last video that I filmed on the engine part, we were discussing the issue with this little spray bar. You see this nut's loose, so we need to take that all off, clean it, RTV it, torque it back to spec, both sides. I did get a tool to pop this rocker off. The rocker itself looks good. This lifter is definitely not rebounding, so you should be able to just kind of push on it and it should spring back. So that's the source of the noise. I did buy valve stem seals. I talked to the owner about it. He at this point just kind of wants to put it back together and get it back to him so he can get it over to paint. It's not too terrible to take all this top end stuff off again and dive back in here. I'm okay with that, especially with the cooler weather. Wait till it, maybe February when it warms up a little bit more. I can spend a little more time outside without getting cold. Also, we are going to skip the valley pan at this point as well. There are no leaks. I have sprayed them down with some penetrant, so we'll come back to that again when we address the lifter tick. This is just, it's a can of worms that we get into. I start having issues, we're just going to delay the project further and further and further. So he just wants to get this button back up so it's running, driving. I'm okay with that. In order to do that valley pan, we got to take the water pump off, which I did find from Turner Motorsports. That came in, the seals, got the valley pan gasket, all from SCP Euro. Again, none of that stuff is sponsored. I paid for that. Well, technically the customer paid for that. So from here, what we're going to do is I need to pull these bars off, clean them up, thread lock them, put them back on, clean the mating surfaces for the valve covers. These valve covers are just spares that he had. I just put them on while I repainted the other ones. Clean up the intake ports, Rhinestone seal those, get that back together, and then put the front end stuff back together. So I'm gonna get working on that and I'll bring you back. All right, so I got the oil spray bar on, torque to spec. I believe it was 89 inch-pounds if I'm remembering correctly. Then we got the mating surface for the valve cover area all cleaned up. Again, we don't mind a little bit of staining, that's fine. We just want a smooth, clean surface. So plastic scraper works just fine getting any gunk off. Then I just used a green Scotch-Brite to get any other little tiny bits. You don't need a power tool. You just go over it real nice and easy. So our next step is anywhere the head and this front timing cover area meets, we basically need to seal. So I'm going to use some Rhinestone seal. It should work really well for this. You're just going to put a little dab on each spot, nothing crazy, because we don't want it spilling over going into the engine areas. Hopefully you guys can see this. You just want a little dab, and I'll smooth it over with my finger. So I'm going to go around and do this in all the joints. I've got the valve cover ready. This is one of the ones that was on the car before. It was certainly in better shape than that ugly mess, but just need a little scuff and shoot. Has some of the old Cosmoline or Cosmoline, whatever you want to call it, on it, so we clean that up. We got a new grommet for the CCV and a new gasket underneath as well. These are all from SCP Euro. These gaskets are really nice. They fit around those grommets and kind of clip around the valve cover. So just take your time fitting it. It goes on really well and holds in place, so I shouldn't have any trouble with the gasket kind of falling down as I install it. So I'm gonna go around and finish those mating surfaces, and then we'll get the valve cover on. All right, we made some more progress. We got both valve covers on, both oil spray bars Loctited, torque to spec, valve covers on, torque to spec, new grommets and new hoses off the crankcase there. So we are ready for our next step, which is going to be to do the same treatment for the intake manifolds. We want to clean those surfaces up. We're just going to use, again, a light scraper to get any big stuff off, but I think really all it's going to need is the green Scotch-Brite, and a little brake clean should come right up. Back here I've got the intake gaskets themselves. If you're not aware, these things, they're about 230 bucks a piece or so. The good news is they are reusable. As long as they feel fairly soft and pliable still, we should be able to reuse them, which these do. What I've been told is just to, on both sides, put some of that rhinestones seal. So I'll quick clean these, just a little brake clean probably, and a clean rag. We got to remember to put our engine lift brackets in. They mount to the studs, one on either side of the valley there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cleaned up, get some rhinestones seal going, and get these installed. All right, well, we got our intake manifold gasket areas all cleaned up. You see, again, we're just looking for clean. We're not looking for mirror polish. You just don't want any crud sitting on it. So we get a nice good seal. I also did clean up the heads a little bit, just get some of the crud out of there in case we do have to go in there again to do those, do that valley pan and water pump. You know, we can kind of keep an eye on how it's going. So I got the rhinestone seal down on this side, just a little skim coat, just went over with my finger, make sure it's nice and flat, that there's nothing going in the intake ports. So I'm ready to go ahead and slap those gaskets on, and I'll get the other side dressed up as well. All right, a lot more progress has been made. I've got both sets of intake manifold gaskets down, the engine lift points as well, all torqued down to, I believe, 18 foot-pounds. They're 12 millimeters on the intake manifold gaskets. I did an inside-out cross pattern, you know, just kind of start in the center, work out and go back and forth, just like you do a valve cover or anything else like that, just again to evenly distribute the load. Also see I got the blower motor back in. That's all sealed up. Sounds good, a lot better than the old noisy one. We've got the intake manifolds about ready to go on. I need to rhinestone seal them as well. I think I'm gonna put the sealant itself on the intake manifold, not the gasket. Just a little easier to work with doing it that way. So I'm gonna goop that up. We're gonna put the left bank in first. We'll get that one all in. That should be the easy side. Then we'll do the other side, and I'll show you some tricks to get those lower bolts in, because there were at least 3 in the valley pan when I took that off. It's just because you're going down at an angle, they want to fall off the socket. So I'll show you a couple tricks on how to do that. All right, see, I got one of the intake manifolds on the left hand side. 2 tricks I want to show you. So the issue is these top ones are really easy to get to. You can kind of get your hand in there and help hold the nut in place on the socket, but it's not so easy down on the bottom. It's pretty hard to get to, at least with your hand to steady the nut. So what I like to do is just a piece of painter's tape on a 10 mil, tape the socket in. You just start it, do a couple turns, make sure it's set, then you pull off, it pulls the tape back off, and you're set to go. Now, each manifold has one that's a real bear to get. You can almost see it top left here. That one's a real bear to get too because of this stupid engine lift brace. If that wasn't there, you could pretty much get it straight down. So instead you need a bendy socket, and these are usually, you know, pretty worn. They flop around. So again, just a little piece of tape on it. It'll help hold that from flopping around too much. I've seen some people try to install these with there's a sound insulation that goes along in here. I mean, you can, but you can actually just get right in there. If you take that out, you can get all the way down, straight on, without a bendy socket or anything. So just take that insulation out. You can get it back in place with the manifold in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and torque these down. Again, inside out pattern, just like we've done with everything else. Then we'll throw the other manifold on. And from there, I think I'm gonna call it a night. It's New Year's Eve. And I'm starting to lose some light, as you can probably tell in the video. I keep forgetting to grab my light, but there's enough that I can see, and I think that's a pretty good stopping point for the night. And then tomorrow we'll do the last little bits, you know, some of the routing. I got to still replace those little bits of fuel line on the return. Just little odds and ends here and there. Throttle body's back in place, the radiator back in, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Oh, and we gotta weld that bracket on and replace the bumpers for that oil filter housing. So like I said, lots of little tiny things, not a big deal. With any luck, we'll have this thing purring tomorrow, and hopefully we can see some real benefits to what we've done. I mean, obviously we've put new encoder motors on the throttle bodies. I think that's going to be a huge part of it. And then also fixing that loose oil spray bar. I'm hoping that'll help with some of the ticking. I'm not totally confident, but it needed to be done anyways to avoid catastrophic damage. And you know, I'm surprised that there really wasn't any. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it up, get the other one on, and then we'll pick back up tomorrow. Hey guys, well, it's a new day. You guys ever get to working on something, you set a goal as to how far you're gonna go, and then you think, oh, this is going actually kind of well, I'll keep plugging away. Well, that's what I did yesterday. I signed off on the video for the day, saying I'm just gonna wrap up the intake manifolds. Well, I went through the fuel injectors in, put the harness down, connected all that, got the fuel line in. That all went great, but one problem. Fuel return line, that goes underneath the driver's side intake manifold. So we're gonna have to, I'm guessing, pop that off. I don't think there's enough slack in it to sneak it under, and it's just gonna make it harder to do it that way. So I guess I'm gonna have to undo that injection harness, pull that back up, pull that one manifold off, clean up the Renzo seal, and rinse and repeat. Get it back to the way it was supposed to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. We don't have a ton left to do today. We just have to obviously right that wrong, finish up putting the throttle bodies on, get this wiring back hooked up, put our rad in, our fan. I have to repair that one wire on the alternator that snapped off, and then it should start. I'm gonna go ahead and you know, undo my mistake, and I'll pick you up in a little bit. Oh, well, you guys know that Sinead O'Connor song? It's been 7 hours, 15 days. Yeah, that's what it feels like. So I got the fuel return line back in there. That was just a debacle. I mean, getting the intake back off and everything, that was fine. But the issue I had was I put new fuel line on for these returns off the fuel rail. It's so cold out, the fuel line won't bend at all, so having the right length just wasn't working. I mean, it just took forever. It is just too cold, and that stuff won't bend. It was just put up a huge fight. But anyway, I got it back together. I got everything rerouted, pretty much back to where we were yesterday. So on that note, I'm freezing, and I'm gonna go inside and warm up for a bit. So I actually do need to go to the store, the hardware store, or AutoZone or something, because I don't know if you remember, we broke this wire off the alternator. It's kind of a big lug, but a very small wire, and my universal stuff just won't work. I mean, to get a lug that big would be one of those yellow connectors, and they're just too fat. So I'm gonna have to go pick up another eyelet end anyway. I need to warm up, take a break, walk away from it for a minute, because it was seriously testing my patience, to say the least. All right, guys, it's back another day, got some rest. I warmed up a little bit today, not a whole bunch, but it's enough to make it a little worthwhile getting out here. So you can see I've got things tidied back up pretty well. this probably should have been rerouted to go underneath the throttle body. I missed that. You see I got both maps just set up. I just want to hear this thing run after all this has been torn down and pulled apart. I just want to make sure that this thing runs. So I still got to weld that coil bracket on. I'm not doing it today. I'm beat. But everything else is back together. I actually got the rad to sit the way it's supposed to. If you remember, there's a huge gap in here when I first got it. I still have to order all the retainer pins for that closeout panel, make that look right. Thing to note here, what someone caught on one of the videos, the fuel pressure regulators, the vacuum hoses to the throttle bodies were backwards. And it's easy to do because you think, okay, I got this one here goes to that throttle body and this one here goes to that throttle body. But that's not the case because these manifolds, they're crossfire basically. So this throttle body, this intake manifold is actually feeding this side of the engine. So this would not be the right fuel pressure regulator for that bank because that bank is feeding this side of the engine. So they do cross over. I don't really like how this one's routed. I might fiddle with that again to, you know, look at some pictures online to see how that should look nice. Obviously I still got to do the oil cooler mount, but I'm not going to worry about that until I get that bracket welded in because it's right there and I need this thing out of the way. Anyway, so I think we should give this thing a quick little crank, make sure that she starts up, and you know, let's hope for the best. It's been sitting for a while and the batteries are a little tired, so let's see what she wants to do. There we go. She's running. See how her throttle response is. Perfect. She's not stumbling. It's not down on one bank. So that's really good throttle response. Try putting her in gear. It's low on trans fluid. Oh, she does go backwards. Okay, good. Yeah, she's really low on trans fluid. So I'm not going to keep running it because I don't want to burn that pump up. I don't think it's that low, but it's low enough that she's not engaging the gears right, which then further kind of solidifies the fact that that's probably the issue that we were having with the transmission before, not catching right away. It's just low on fluid. We need to get her up to running temp in order to check that, and I can't do that yet because well, I got to fill up the cooling system because that was all apart, and unfortunately the temp sensor down here, one of the pins broke off when I got this out of the car, so I'm gonna have to order that temp sensor. That's a pain in the butt to get to, but it's doable. We'll get it done. And then obviously we got to button up the air boxes and everything like that. But for now, engine wise, I think this is all set. We got new valve cover gaskets. We Loctite and torqued the oil spray bar, resealed the intake gaskets, cleaned up the valve covers, gave them a little spritz. New vacuum lines, new fuel return hoses. I already did the feed hose. I still need to do the fuel pump, fuel filters, and the lines at the back of the car. I'm waiting on some more fuel line for that. But I kind of wanted to do that in stages anyways. I wanted to see, was the issue, was it the encoder motors? And it really seems like that was the case, because that throttle response is awesome. It's definitely not sitting dead on one bank right now. So probably tomorrow, as I'm getting cold and tired, I'm gonna pack up. Tomorrow we'll rescan it, clear the codes, get some coolant in this, button up the front end here, top off that trans fluid, and then take her for a little drive. Then what's next? We got parts ordered for the rear suspension. We got to replace all that stuff. There's still the rotational noise underneath. I'm not sure yet. I can't see that a heat shield's hitting. I'm thinking the center support bearing is blown out and it's just riding on the hoops. So Probably when I go to do the rear suspension work, I'll get this whole car up in the air. We'll drop the entire exhaust from the manifold back. There is a midsection that you can separate, but all that hardware is nasty. I don't feel like messing with it under the car, and there's fresh hardware up front because someone decatted it and they bent new pipes up there. So I'll probably just drop it from the front, slide the whole thing out. But I got to check with my neighbor too on his schedule. I think this goes for paint this coming week. So depending on when my parts come, my time schedule, and when he needs to get this to paint, we might just do the rear end work after the fact. So I'll try to get all that stuff. I mean, we'll definitely get this oil filter housing situated and the coil bracket situated before that goes to paint as well. So and then obviously we got to put the cabin filter housing back in fact, I might just throw that on right now. And then the beauty cover back over top of the engine. I guess I'm gonna call this part of the video done. I'm not sure if this is gonna be the end of this actual video. Actually, I'll probably do one more little part where we where this stuff is taken care of. We got coolant in it, we got trans full. We'll take it for a drive. I think maybe that'll be the end of this video. All right, guys, well, we got everything all back together. I just want to quick wrap this up. So you can see we got the engine compartment all tidied up. Got my coil bracket all welded on, back in place. All the wiring secured, air boxes in, coolant filled, cabin air filter box all set. So we are pretty much done with this portion of the build. My neighbor's actually supposed to be taking this over to body and paint today. So we have not gotten to the rear suspension work yet. It's just, you know, everything takes a little longer than you think. I don't want to open up this can of worms and have another issue to hold up his body work. So it's all under the car. I don't see any issue that, you know, we'll have risk of scratching paint. You know, we're not leaning over fenders or anything like that. So I think, you know, we're pretty much all set with the engine stuff. But I also wanted to kind of share something. The customer, my neighbor, the other day, he had quite an experience. He asked to take this out for a quick drive. After I got the engine back together, I said, okay, sure, thinking he was just going to go through the neighborhood. No, he took it up on the highway, got to some more than highway speeds, we'll just say. Got to turn around, and literally the wheel fell off. So I warned him. I said, there's only 3 lug studs on that wheel. And there's barely any engagement because of the 2 wheel spacers that were on it, and it's not safe. Don't drive it. And no, instead he went out, had the wheel fall off. It jammed up inside the fender. I pushed it back a little bit, but you know, it's going to need some work from the paint guy. You can see it's all sticking out back here. I had a thread chase most of the hub to get the lug nuts back in. And but I'm pretty sure it's just going to need a new hub anyways, because one of them is like, it's just so messed up that I can't get my tap into it, and I don't want to break my tap off in the hub. But you know, I've got it to where you can at least get it up to the body shop that's just around the corner. I'll order the hub, so when this comes back we can put it in. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll get that done. Then we got to take a look at this back end. But let's fire this up, see how it's running. All right, so let's go ahead and do a cold start. She's really not happy. It really doesn't want to idle, but I'm not sure what that is. There's no engine light on, there's no codes. I think we're still battling fuel pressure issues. I do have a whole fuel pump assembly on order, and that's coming from V12 Throttle again. Big shout out to them. He's been absolutely fantastic helping me with this thing. See if she'll idle now. Nope. It's really really, really cold this morning. I mean, it's barely 30 degrees. So, I mean, there could still be other issues that we got to go through, but once it gets warmed up, it's been fine. So, like I said, I think I'm going to call this quits here. It's running. He's going to take it up to the body shop. We'll get that fuel pump and new fuel filters in. Hopefully that'll take care of the rest of the runnability issues. But it has been driving. I mean, like I said, the owner had it all the way up to more than highway speeds and had plenty of power. So again, thanks everybody for watching. Be the end of this content for a couple weeks probably, because it'll be tied up at the body shop. But I will bring it back when the car is back and we can do some more work. Thanks for watching.